Yeah. So in here we can see how this is all working. One Nanoi installs a solar panel in one of the roofs of one of the houses in the village and shares that energy with a DC connection to between four and six houses. And how people purchase the energy. So basically, they use their phones. They send an SMS. They get a code, and they put it all into this microcontroller that matches with the energy. And since this is a low-income area, people don't have the gadgets to use the energy. So NanoE is also allowing the rental of gadgets like TVs, light, radios, phone chargers, and so on. For yeah, you can see here the tariffs with here. Maybe you cannot read, but basically they can purchase energy, power, and gadget. Since there's some electronics that would be too expensive to install in every house, and it has also these containers that gather all these gadgets together. For example, we have one that is gonna have a rice cleaner for agriculture. We're gonna install pumps to extract water from underground, and we have fridges and freezers. Yeah, so we from the mall that you see here, we already installed one already 1 year ago. That it has some fridges for people to store some food. And let's go to the next demo. This demo is in Sierra Leone, in the west of Sierra Leone, in a small town called Freetown. And here we wanted to find a sustainable way to create fertilizer. Fertilizers are tied to development in a way that they give independence to create food production. And so we have these digesters that recycle the waste of the rural areas and create this fertilizer and also an end product that is biogas. And then we are using photovoltaics to purify water. There's two lines of research. As I said, the usage of photovoltaics to purify water. And for the digesters, we are researching the use of ash to increase the efficiency of the digesters. We found that adding only 1% of ashes into the digesters duplicates the efficiency of the digester. So more biogas faster and more quality of the fertilizer. And for finishing, this demo in Kenya. This is the most urban of them all. It has it's urban, but it still have some issues with the grid. So we had to take that into account. The government knows this and is trying to invest in fixing all these grid issues. So that's helping our product. And then this region in the west of Kenya has a particularity that is that it has a super common ways of transport called Boda Boda. That is the most common way of transport under 5 kilometers. That is basically a taxi, a motorcycle taxi. So we got all this information and we came with an idea with Ron, a electric bike company, to install this battery charger facilities for these electric bikes. So basically, we didn't want to ruin or create more problems into the grid of Kenya, more than the ones that they already had. So we had to come up with a way of forecasting the grid. We installed smart meters. We implemented a real-time platform to see the status of the grid, to see where to locate these battery chargers facilities and when to charge the batteries. So yeah, here we can see a video for you to more or less know how this is all working. The driver comes with the motorcycle, leaves the low battery battery. The gas here in the facility charges this low battery, gathers the information from the driver. The driver pays, and he will get now a fully charged battery. And as fast as you would fill the tank of your car, you would charge the battery of your motorcycle. And yeah, thank you. More or less, I think it's around 15 euros. Yeah. Yes. So the thing is, this is not my field of expertise. Again, more. I think last time that I asked, it was around the 15 euros, and it's a competitive business model, so it's expanding. So I don't have the figures now, but I would guess it is competitive to the gas, and also with the increase of gas prices, this varies. I'm guessing, but yeah.
And interesting, who are your African partners and what are their roles?
Yeah, so we can go to. Yeah, so one of the partners, Rome, actually is an African partner, and we are working also with the local administration of the sites. But I don't know yet exactly which partners are African and which partners are European, because we don't. When we have the meetings, we don't say it. But I will, if you give me your data, I will get you back exactly with the partners.
I'm asking this question because in those calls, Africa and Europe,
yeah,
very important what African partners really like doing technical jobs, or really like doing jobs for the construction, and not only receiving the knowledge from the Europeans. So it's interesting that maybe
yeah. Okay, so I can tell from the I'm working more in the Madagascar demo. I can tell you more about that. So, for example, we are working in that demo with Nanoe. That is a French company that also has the site in there. We are forming people, the young people there, to become entrepreneurs. So the company started in France, but actually most of the people that are working in that company are from Madagascar. So it's half, depending on how you define African partner. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but what is the biggest challenge you faced so far?
Biggest challenge so far? I would say that's a good question. I would say I can tell for my demo. For myself, I would say it is hard to. So I'm more expert in the European context, and the European context is more used to having all the energy equipment and so on. But these people in Madagascar, they never used electricity before, so we have all the ideas that we have to somehow restrain it to the context. We cannot, for example, have different tariffs that vary between the day and night, or find the optimal thing, because you need something more adapted to people that are starting to gather this. And also, I would say one of the biggest challenges is to give these classes to the entrepreneurs and make sure that the business is gonna go on after the NanoE is gonna leave the country. Not right now, how it works is NanoE is giving the classes and also is studying. So he's owning around 80% of the business. But his idea is to leave the country in 10 years on, and let the people that they form run the business. So I think that is one of the biggest challenges, to make sure that the business model is going to run after this partner, European partner.
Sorry, is it just starting or is it?
Yeah, so the NanoE jumped into our project on 2021, but they started installing this nanogrids on 2018, and so they came with the idea, and then they jumped into the project, and it was they really fitted into our project, because we need to have different demos with different development rates, and this because we wanted to have these demos that were implementable in all Africa, and So, but as I said, right now, if you are interested, we are most in this part of the project. We're here. That is connect. So there is these nanogrids that are like small cells of solar panels and small grid cells, and now we are connecting all these grid cells together. This is already implemented in some of the villages. Yeah.
How do you ensure that the local community knows that that's some kind of free approach to public?
Yeah, good question. Again, I can tell you more about this demo. As I said, we are giving classes to young entrepreneurs. So I think it's around 150 young people that will get these micro loans to also invest and be this. And so there is going to be these local people in which they are going to be the ones that are going to get the benefit, and they're going to be the ones they're going to be the first that want to expand the business and get people to know about this. Also, this is super easy to install, so we thought the best way of engaging is to give the people a good business model, a good way of living, and then the thing will be easy to the wheel will roll. No? But in the other cases, for example, in these cases, in this demo of Sierra Leone, we are partner. We are doing these meetings where people can come and see. But it's as I said, this is not my field of expertise. But if you want to know more, I can give you some contact. Yeah. So we can.
Shall we try to have?
Yeah. Let's try to. Yeah. Let's try to.
He's online now.
She's online. Okay. Let's try to connect with her. Okay. How can you give her access to? Hello, do you listen? Can you still mute? You are muted. Yeah, you have to press the microphone button.
No, on his computer.
No, on the computer. On the
The
computer,
screen.
in the screen, there has to be like a microphone with yeah. Now, no, but now we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His computer's not getting his audio.
No, maybe can you try to select the device settings and try to choose the mic that you are using. There's like a gear.
Because I think there was something about that added as a moderator to be able, because they have the system doesn't let the participants speak.
You
I mean, that's what.
Okay, I think.
Shall we go on?
Yeah, we can go on, and if she starts talking, by some means we tell him to wait, and then
We already told him that if there were technical issues.
You hear me now?
okay. Now we can hear you.
The magic of reboots. What do they say? If it doesn't work, switch it off for 10 seconds and reset. Good afternoon. Are you ready to?
Okay, I'm gonna.
Do you want to share my slide? As we're obviously technical.
He should share his own slides.
Right. You want me to share my slide?
Can you share your screen?
Right. We're having challenges today, aren't we?
Yeah, click that button. He has to click that.
Share screen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Not you, but he has to.
yeah. So.
And then he chooses the entire screen and then goes to the PowerPoint, puts the PowerPoint in
Yeah.
the screen.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a monitor with a line that crosses the monitor in the.
Yeah.
Try to click that and try to share your screen.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Okay.
Is that screen good for you?
No, we don't see anything.
If you have his slides, maybe it's easier if you do it.
Right. We're not doing well today.
Okay. You here?
Who's that?
I'm sharing screen and audio.
Does his presentation uploaded?
Yeah. I can do that.
Why don't we
Yeah, I can share my screen and try to pass. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. I can do that.
whenever it says slide.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just say next screen, next slide. Can you work with that?
Okay. Perfect. Then I have to click here, share screen. Isn't it? All screen. Here and here. And then your slide is which one it is?
Steam Bio Africa. There. Next one down.
In the middle.
No.
3 from the bottom.
This one.
That one there. Right, magic. So I'll put, if you go on to, yeah. Right. Sorry about this, everyone, and I can totally understand why we've been trying, the host wants us to not do hybrid meetings, but it is what it is. I was away all last week and I couldn't afford to get with you. Right. If I can start, Steam Bio Africa is an evolution of an early Horizon 2020 project, which was called Steam Bio, which we demonstrated in northern Spain the effectiveness of our project. Next slide, please. It's a 15-partner project covering 2 continents, 8 countries, research and academia. Next slide, please. Not going through the whole timeline. Essentially, it was an idea I had in about 2010, 2012. I had some pilot work done, which then eventually ended up into a successful demonstration project in Spain. I set up Steam Bio Limited as a business to commercialise that. I then I presented at the European Biomass Conference and Exhibition in Stockholm in 2017, which is really where things kicked off, when I met people from Namibia who told me about the problem. They asked me to come out to Namibia, we talked, and one thing led to the other, and we currently have an installation in north central Namibia, which has been going through the final commissioning as we speak today. And I've been in contact, and like all commissioning, there's always teething problems. But we're intending to produce, we say 500 tonnes here. I think it's more likely that we'll be producing between 1,000 and 15 tonnes of clean burning fuel from a problem. And that's the biggest point. We're producing a biofuel from a problem, and it's a nice, good quality biofuel with lots of commercial interest across the SADC region, leading to potential commercial rollout in a couple of years' time. Next slide, please. Simplifying matters, 2 slides talking about context. First, context of bioenergy. It is the only renewable that is available on demand. It's a major source of fuel. But if you look at the numbers alone, wood pellets, you're talking 55 million metric tons, whereas coal, you're looking at 7,000 million metric tons. It's an order of magnitude higher. Why aren't we using biofuel instead of coal? The problem is that wood pellets and chips require a lot of capital investment. They're not as energy intense as coal, and they can't be handled easily out externally. When they get wet, they don't lose their effectiveness. Next slide, please. Then we look at Africa. The major coal industrial fuel supply and also domestic, they are all polluting. Coal, lots of coal dug out the ground in South Africa and Botswana, lots of industry dependent, but it's expensive and it's unreliable, especially now in the grid in South Africa, and the region has been underinvested and is falling apart. Turn it round, we have another issue, which is encroaches bush and invasive species. So woody biomass that's overgrown herbaceous species, which creates a problem for both livestock and for wild. And interestingly, I thought it was just confined to areas like Southern Africa, Ethiopia, but I was talking to someone from Nigeria last week and had a big photo and said, that's what I would see when I look out my window. Encroachment is a problem that's vast and creates a big problem. So in summary, what do we need to do? We actually need to create value from this biomass, but at the moment it's a cost to remove rather than an opportunity to access and create a clean, secure and affordable source of fuel to create wealth and jobs right across Africa. So next slide, please. Where do we come in? What we want to do is take our technology to address it. It uses superheated steam, which is not fantastic. It's been around for a long time, but we've elevated the temperature. The steam is generated from the moisture within the biomass, so we're not actually having to add anything. This creates an inert atmosphere, doesn't react with the substrate, so we create what's called torrefaction conditions. So I'm reluctant to use that term because torrefaction has been oversold and underdelivered over the past 20 years. Next slide, please. So this summarizes it, where we are now, what we're trying to do, and the impacts we're trying to create. Next slide, please. That looks as though it's got corrupted in translation. So technology is trying to get in the way of us today. The slide at the top says it builds on prior work. The three blue slides buttons say we're optimizing the process according to feedstocks and markets. So back slide. It's a robust and resilient design, and we're taking temperatures up to 260 degrees C. Right, we're going to confirm the benefits in Africa for both profit and value, incentivize and stimulate bush clearance, a clean burning fuel. What we did in Spain previously demonstrated that we can take resinous pine and create clean burning fuel that can be used for cooking without tainting the fuel. We've got a complete holistic approach, looking at soil restoration, gender equality and social inclusion, social and environmental sustainability, and so really drive into post-project rollout. So a couple of schematics have just been flagged up, and then the next slide is actually what it looks like today. Pretty good demonstration, especially when that picture's blown up on a stand that we had last week, because he clearly shows in the background that should be lush grasslands with a few trees there. It's not, it's overgrown with encroaching bush, and that's our plant, which we're in the commissioning phase at the moment. So next slide, please. Where we are now, we're going to complete commissioning. We're going to operate a plant 350 kilos an hour to produce. We're demonstrating all these aspects. We demonstrate that we can provide techno-economic viability to enable commercial rollout. We have significant customers across the region who are going to be trialing this, and if we demonstrate what we promise, we're relatively comfortable that we can secure commercial investment. Next slide gives an overview of the multifaceted work program. Here again, I'm not going to go into all the details of the various work packages, but we've tried to tick every box to make sure that literally no stone is unturned. Thank you. Any questions? Don't all talk at once. Does anyone have any questions, please?
There's no questions, so we can continue.
I can ask a question,
yeah,
if
sure.
possible. From the slides we have seen, there's a already existing facility where I guess they have driven some tests. Has this technology proven to be competitive with the state-of-the-art solutions?
I would. The picture that's shown is the demonstration facility that's been designed and built. We had a previous facility, and from the modelling that's been done, we believe that we will be cost competitive with coal in Southern Cape. So if you can imagine that, just as a benchmark to start with, and we've done very, very detailed costings on this, the cost of coal delivered to factories in Southern Cape, because every factory across Southern Africa has to use their own boilers to generate steam to run the factories. The electric grid is no longer reliable, they can't run the factories. They have to all have coal-fired boilers. We are looking at a like-to-like replacement without any capital investment by the boiler operator. We are in close contact with the company who supply boilers to 80%, that 80% of the African market. We believe that we can meet parity on cost to customers with coal that's being shipped by lorry from the coal fields in Botswana and northern Transvaal. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? No. We can continue then, and maybe have some room for discussion later. Yeah. So now you have to share your screen for him to see. So you fill the entire screen, share, and then here, and you do this. Okay. Let's go. Here. Okay. That's it. Very good.
Hi everyone, so I'm Milena García and on behalf here of the SOFIA consortium. SOFIA is the SOFIA project stands for Sustainable Off-Grid Solutions for Pharmacies and Hospitals in Africa. And a brief just summary of the project, it was funded by Horizon 2020. It started in October 2021 and will run for 4 years. The coordinator is the University of Applied Sciences of Hochschule Karlsruhe, and our main goal is to develop containerized solutions using natural refrigerants and solar technology and PV for providing sustainable off-grid energy supplies, clean drinking water, and refrigeration for rural hospitals in Africa. The background of why this project came, or we started this project, is just a quick summary here. Of course, in rural areas across Africa, there's still a very big lack of electricity and also clean water, which is very necessary, of course, at the hospital site, not only for drinking, but for use of some of the hospital equipment. As well as no refrigeration, whether that's for food or for the medicines themselves. So the objectives of the project then is to provide the sustainable off-grid energy supplies, refrigeration, clean and safe water. And it will be demonstrated in 4 remote hospitals across different regions and also different climatic regions in Africa to sort of show or to demonstrate the broad use of the technology. As well as this technological objective of developing this technology, we also work towards developing a sustainable business plans and job opportunities to make sure that the local resources are used in the manufacturing and in the maintenance and in the continuation of the SOFIA technologies, to develop materials and opportunities for knowledge exchange and capacity building, to perform social acceptance studies to make sure that the technology itself is both from a social and environmental perspective accepted and can be continued post-project, and to assess this sustainability of the solutions from a broad perspective, from environmental, social, economic terms. So this is what we started with the idea of the technologies that are used in the project are refrigeration, solar, PV, but also solar thermal, heat pumps, storage, water treatment, and it all comes together in this SOFIA box that will then be installed in the healthcare facilities. And the idea is that this is something that can be easily installed in existing infrastructures without much need for modifying what is already there. And to provide, so we're saying, safe and clean drinking water, but also hot water and steam, which is required by the hospitals. Refrigeration at 3 different stages, so +5, whether that's for food or for some medicines, -30 degrees for blood plasma, and -70 for some vaccines. And then in the case that there is additional energy produced from the PV panels, then emergency electricity supply can be provided to the hospital. How this actually looks in practice is like this. SOFIA is developing this solar-powered cooling container, so there's 2 containers per site. In the solar-powered cooling container, we have a 3-stage cascade refrigeration system based on natural refrigerants that have low global warming potential. And this is the 40-foot container that then provides these 3 different stages at +5, -30, and -70 degrees. And the water container is again PV powered, so the PV is not pictured here. But with this one, it has a unit for, so an ultrafiltration tank for, and capacitive deionization modules. And also, with this container, we provide drinking water and deionized water that might be needed for some consumers of the hospital, whether it's for laundry or and for some of the machinery, and steam when needed. Hot water and steam production. And additionally, the Sophia water container uses this EXO hot water system, so isothermal and the Scheffler reflectors. And finally, there's also the PV Met board, which is developed by one of our partners, Simply Solar, which is a standalone small station that is powered again by photovoltaic modules and can be used whether to provide emergency electricity, but also for outreach programs, because it's, you can see it's shaded there, so it gives some space for having either outreach or vaccination programs. And this, we're also looking for locations in the same countries where this can be used. Our partners are across Europe and Africa. So here, the partners in Europe, we are in Germany, France, and Switzerland. In Africa, we have partners in Burkina Faso, in Cameroon, Uganda, and South Africa. And our demo sites are in Burkina Faso, Uganda, and Cameroon. So where the local partners themselves are doing all the work together with the hospitals. Where one of the partners, the hospital in Burkina Faso, is a partner in the project, and the others are not directly partners, but have been found by the mostly in contact with the local partners. And in Malawi, we don't have a partner in the consortium, but the partner in Uganda is mostly liaising with that hospital. This is just a summary of our work plan. So we started with sort of the conception phase, defining what were the needs of each of the hospitals, because the idea is also that the containers can be modular and adapted to the needs of each hospital, because they don't all have the same conditions or the same requirements. The design, prototyping, and testing. So there was, for the solar technology, for the refrigeration, and for the water technology, some laboratory tests, which is what we've been doing and is completed now. The manufacturing of the containers is taking place in South Africa, and that phase is finishing. And then, of course, there's the transversal work packages through all the socioeconomic and exploitation work, dissemination, communication, and the project management that happens throughout the whole project. So where we are now, here you can see, let's start with first the needs assessment and selection of the hospital sites were complete. And this was done through carrying out some questionnaires that then the local partners contacted or went to visit many hospitals in each of the countries to then see where both Sophia containers could be most useful, but also were more willing and accepting of using or demonstrating our technology. The solar refrigeration and water technologies have been designed and tested in the lab, and the first 2 set of containers has been built, which is what you can see here. At the back, these are the 2 containers. So right now, this was a photo from March this year, so now it's more advanced here. The PV systems are not actually installed, but that's sort of how it will look. And the social acceptance and environmental studies have started. And the partners responsible for capacity building are also starting to to use or to put together this material. So outlook for what sort of the priorities are also in the coming months after we start the demonstration phase is the capacity building. Sofia plans to organize demonstration site launch days. So the first one will be in Burkina Faso, and then at a first stage, and then the other 3 a bit later on. Training sessions to raise interest, but also to show how the containers are installed, or to involve the local companies directly in the installing the containers, so that we make sure that this can actually also be continued, that they will be maintained, and that that there's local training initiatives happening. And there will be a training manual elaborated with as a handbook for continuation of for replication of the technologies and maintenance of the systems, and of course through local workshops, meetings, synergy. So this has not directly started yet because we have not started the first demo, but this is what we'll plan. And then, of course, to work a bit more in detail towards the market uptake strategy, the social economic acceptance study. So this has started, but it will carry on for many months. Life cycle assessment and life cycle costing. And with this, defining the business models and the tailored value chain for ensuring sort of that there's an upscaling and possibility, and that the Sofia containers can continue to be used and manufactured for this project. And just a summary then of what sort of the collaborations we seek and clustering we seek as a project, from local contacts for capacity building. We're involving local solar refrigeration, water purification stakeholders, students at the universities, both at the partner universities and others, especially in the demo countries, but the idea is also to reach out to other countries where, even if we're not demonstrating right now during the project for lack of time and budget, this can be an interest already in other places. For market uptake, it's a bit the same, that there's already a relation with local suppliers, and as much as possible, all the materials that are used for building the containers are locally sourced. And of course, with other projects and initiatives, such as the workshop that we're doing now with other projects working on similar topics. So this is just a summary of the consortium. We have 13 partners across Europe and Africa, our social media, and thank you very much.
So you're working with hospitals, which are notoriously hard to, change, I would say. It seems like there's a focus on capacity building, and the box is like multiple technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if the project has a deliberate focus on replication, but not specifically with this technology. Like, how could we adapt something like this with maybe local suppliers? I don't know.
Exactly. So it's a bit of both. At the same time, the capacity building is focusing on making sure that the local community is involved on even just from the installation phase, so that if something breaks or if something doesn't work, they're aware of how the different technologies work. But of course, with this handbook, it's very hard to. These containers right now is in a year and a half, the technology has been tested, they've been built. We're 13 partners, and the materials, the technologies are coming from a lot of different expertise. So there's not one company that is making this from scratch. So it's very difficult to say replication in the sense that any local company will be able to make a container like this alone. But indeed, that the refrigeration companies can deal with the refrigeration system, or maybe can adapt the refrigeration system for Sofia for their own use, or there could be a site or a smaller hospital or something else. It doesn't have to be a hospital that can especially make use of the water system but not the whole technology. So then that's sort of the idea.
So maybe the business model is more like conceptual as opposed to these specific partners.
It's both things. So at the same time, we'll try to create a way in which the partners, that is, for example, the partner in South Africa that at the moment is manufacturing the containers themselves, can continue to do this post-project, or that there's an opportunity for Sophia containers as such to continue. But of course, the hospital, this is not something that will be bought by the hospitals or by any other entity in rural Africa or even in Europe, right? Like it's not realistic. So that will rely a lot on external investment. But on the side of that one part of the exploitation route, let's say, there can be others for the specific technologies that the partners are working.
Interesting.
During the presentation, you said you got in contact with the hospitals to assess their needs. But I can imagine people working at the hospitals are mostly involved in their subjects. Have you found any awareness of their energetic needs? And if no, how did you solve this issue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. So this was, let's say, one of the first challenges that also the project experienced in the way we needed to do a needs assessment for the technical partners to know exactly what system they needed to design, from the solar to the refrigeration to the water system, how much water, how much energy, like what temperatures do you need in the refrigeration system. So as a consortium, the partners prepared a questionnaire, and the idea was to send, let's say, or give this questionnaire to the hospitals and get these answers. But of course, it was very difficult there's no one person at the hospital that can reply to all of this. And then in some of the sites, there isn't even a technical person responsible. So then this is why it was very, very key for the local partners to be there accompanying this, because they went directly to the sites, visited the sites with the questionnaire to ask the questions directly, to explain the questions a bit more, or to see for themselves what installations there were. And even some of the technical partners had to have been traveling both for the social awareness and for this needs assessment to get this sort of full picture of what does the hospital have or need, because a lot of the times it's very hard to get this information. Because the doctors are busy working and you can't really ask them at the same time how much electricity do you use or what water. They can tell you what they need in the sense of, I would need clean water or deionized water, or I would need more light, but what the installations already have can be quite.
Yeah, so an issue we are facing across it too. One thing is understanding that we have a need. Another matter is understanding how much we need it or quantify that need.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you able to look at case studies of other hospitals in different regions and maybe compare?
So before the selection of the hospitals, I think in total there's 4 hospitals in the demos, and we received the questionnaire, we completed the questionnaires as a consortium from 19 different hospitals. So for each country, there were quite a few of them asked this.
And what was the criteria to choose one hospital to the election?
So the questions were prepared directly by the, sort of like as together all the technical partners, and then from the replies, the way I must say with the disclaimer that this was not my part of the project, it was not my task in the project, but essentially the hospitals selected were the ones where the Sophia technologies were needed the most and would have let's say like that the whole range of technologies were also needed, because a lot of the hospitals, well, not a lot, but maybe some of the hospitals did not need refrigeration or did not need deionized water, already had some PV installations, and then the idea was to, obviously this plan of these two container sets is what we had planned and promised to do in the project, so we needed to make sure that the sites were places where all of these functionalities could be used and tested in a useful way, and that they were more needed. So there was some criteria there used and let's say ranked and selected.
And the project is funding all of the demo sites, or are you?
Yes, there's four demo sites.
So all the buses is all the so the hospitals are not paying for any.
The hospitals are not paying for it. No.
How much does it cost? 2,000 of this.
So I don't remember. I think probably if the partner from South Africa was here, they would be able to give you a more estimate of, now that the first set of containers have been built, like how much budget this was, but I don't want to say a number, but I can I can look this up. But I mean, it's a lot. It's not something that the hospital will be able to afford.
Yeah, I see. So in this area, the hospital don't have budget to buy
No.
all of this.
No, and this is also something that we have to account for the roadmap of the exploitation afterwards, because even if maybe the first set of containers will have been more expensive because there is more, trial and error, like some things have to be changed or modified, or with the whole issue with material prices in the last years, it's been a lot. We expect that the next set of containers can be done a bit cheaper, but it's still not something that the hospitals themselves, which who needs them, will be able to purchase. So, external investment would be needed.
What's the experience you've had with pharmacies so far?
Not much directly. So the demos are concentrated on the hospitals, on the hospital sites, and the PD network, which I showed with this standalone unit, that can be used sort of as a pharmacy, whether in a completely different location or in conjunction with the hospital. But at the moment for the demos, we're working with hospitals.
A question regarding the maintenance.
Mhm.
From my understanding, you deliver these containers, but during the lifetimes, how can we maintain this?
Yeah, this is a really good question and something that we're figuring out as a consortium, because obviously during the 4 years of the project, the partners that have delivered or designed the technology are still involved and responsible for the maintenance. This is part of the work. But sort of also the concern or the very awareness of how much this capacity building or working with the local companies is needed from the installation phase is exactly for this, because it's not enough to build the container, to put it there and just to, let's say, explain how to use it, but really for the companies that work on these technologies locally, that they know how to fix it. So this is in progress, let's say, because it's a very key thing, because otherwise, after 6 months, 1 year, something breaks, it will not get fixed, because the hospital doctors or the people working there do not have the time, the money, or the skills to fix it.
And if I may, probably you already said, but I miss it. What about the energy consumption? Because there's also PV panels.
Yeah, so the PV, the technology inside the container will be completely powered by the PV. So, and then if there is excess, then there could be then used for emergency power supply or something. But the idea is that the electricity generated by the PV first powers the technology inside the containers, and then other things in the hospital if needed. But it's self-powered.
So, maybe again, that's a slightly technical question, not too much.
Yeah.
Are these modules completely standalone? I mean, you're going to to produce cooling, so some cold space, some freezers. Is the personnel going to access the container to store things in there, or there's a communication between the module and the hospital?
Yeah, no, so the containers will be placed a bit outside the hospital, and it's not drawn here, but basically we'll have doors on the side.
Okay.
And then you can access the container to basically store inside the materials. Then number 2, I believe, yeah. So number 2 is the storage at -70. So this is like an extra fridge basically at -70, which could be then like if the hospital does not have any need for this, then it doesn't have to be installed in the container. Or the main room 4 is all at +5 degrees. So anything that room is kept at 5 degrees, and you can put there what you want. And the systems number 5 are then at -30, but again, whether that's what we mean by modular in the sense that you can put or not certain technologies. But at the demo part of the project, then we're obviously just testing everything.
Okay. Then, yeah, still it's completely independent. There's no physical connection with the hospital itself.
No, not physical connection.
Okay.
No, it's a.
I see there is a machinery room there.
Yeah, exactly. So everything is batteries, like, is in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we move on? This is the PowerPoint, right? I just want to be sure that everything can be read over the slides. Yeah, okay, looks good. Okay, good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Riccardo Camerano, and I'm part of Tifeo, which is an Italian startup taking part in this Reflect Africa project. So today we are going to speak a lot about agriculture and renewable energies and how the two are connected together in our project. So before going into the details of what we are doing, just some figures about the project. It's a huge consortium of 29 partners divided in 3 clusters. So we are operating in Northern Africa, West Africa, and Southern Africa. 11 partners are from African countries. The others are from European countries. You can see indicated in red in Europe, and respectively green, blue, and red regarding Africa. So before going into the details, indeed, let's have a look at why we are doing what we are doing and why European community has thought we are worth being funded. So the figures say 600 million people in Africa do not have access to electricity. 600 million. And for those who have access to electricity, this comes mainly from combustion of fossil fuels. In some countries, indeed, it's mainly from coal, and we all know that burning coal is a bad thing because it pollutes and creates a lot of CO2. But how does this relate to agriculture? So looking at agricultural figures, we see that in Africa, more than 50% of people are employed in this sector. But at the same time, it only accounts for 18% of the overall economic chain, overall economic value. What does it mean? It means that there's a great need for modernization. Too many people working for not much value. And we want to increase that value in a sustainable way, both economically and environmentally. So our goal is this, to prove that we can enhance the agri-food value chain by gasifying the biomass wastes in technology we are developing. And by this, we can provide sustainable energy solutions for the community. So what is currently wasted can be, thanks to our technology, used to generate useful energy. The figures here are self-explaining. So we have this technology we are developing, the demonstrators. We are going to see they are based on a gasifier. We feed the gasifiers with the biomass wastes. This can be from different sources. So we have corn, olives, almonds, palm, whatever is available on site. This gets gasified in the demonstrator, from which we can extract electricity, heat, and charcoal. Charcoal is a blackish powder that is very useful for the soil because it brings carbon to the soil. It improves soil productivity over time. So also the bioproducts of our demonstrators can be used to bring added value to the local communities. Of course, we are not just installing technology, we are doing much more. We have assessed the 3 most important agri-food value chains in the African countries we are working in. We will indeed install our technology and validate it through tests. But at the same time, we will conclude our project with a life cycle assessment before and after the installation. And eventually, we are going to leave there 3 living labs. That will work as a collection point, as a reference point for the local communities to share knowledge and create network. And last but not least, of course, we have the chance to create new jobs, new skills, new employment. And in addition to this, we are providing renewable energies to these communities where we live our technologies. So increasing the competitiveness of the African agri-food sector. Not stopping on the work plan, we are a European project structured as many others. So information collection, design of the prototypes, building and commissioning. We will demonstrate if the demonstrators will work. And this falls in a big technical area concluded by life cycle assessment and life cycle costing. And then there are the horizontal transversal activities, so digitalization, training of the local communities, market and business strategies, communication and dissemination events like this, and everything within the big box of the project management. Just to give you a very quick overview of our timeline, it's a long project. It's going to last 5 years. We are now in the middle of year 2. We have collected information on site. We have designed the demonstrators. We are under the procurement phase, so collecting components from different places in the world. This is how it looks. So we have a huge tower that is fed with the biomass wastes, and as an output, we have renewable electricity, renewable heat, and the biochar I was mentioning a few slides before. The proportions of these 3 products can be variable depending on the conditions, on what biomass we are providing, on temperature, humidity, and other different things. But these are the boundaries we are targeting. And this is how it looks, our biochar, a blackish powder. Very important to stress these figures, because the expected payback time is between 4 and 6 years, depending on the demonstrator complexity. We can adapt different technologies, so prices can go up and down. But we are in the range between 4 and 6 years, which is in line with the standard technologies. We can be competitive with standard technologies, which is of fundamental importance when investors will evaluate these solutions. It cannot be, okay, it's renewable, but we cannot choose it because it's not economical enough. It has to be placed on a market eventually. The 3 demonstrators we are installing have been designed in different ways because the sites have different needs. So in Morocco, where we are dealing with an olive mill. In Ghana, we're dealing with a rural area where we want to power a school, and this nearby restaurant or canteen. And in South Africa, we are working in Durban, supporting the local bulk market. It's a huge groceries market where vegetables and fruits have to be maintained at low temperature. So depending on the site needs, we can adapt our technology to meet especially what is needed. But everything is still based on a gasification unit. Just going quickly, for you to have a look at the sites. This is the olive mill in Morocco. You see the facility surrounded by the fields. And here are some of the results we have been achieving. Some of the figures, I'm not going to read them, but it's there for you if you're interested. This is the bulk market in South Africa, where basically there are already existing compression chillers for the cold rooms. We are just pushing our demonstrator to extract as much electricity as we can. So we are not interested in heat, but we try to exploit that heat to produce more electricity with an organic Rankine cycle associated to the gasifier. And so we are supplying renewable electricity to the existing chillers. And this is the village in Ghana we are supporting. We are cooperating with the NASCO Feeding Mines, a no-profit organization working in that area. And they promoted the school, and we are now providing the technology to feed the school, to power the school. Just some pictures of the Sawa community in Ghana. This is an off-grid and partially on-grid situation. We're achieving 4 renewable objectives, and this is it from my presentation. Thank you. Yes, please.
Are you certifying the biochar for carbon credits?
Excuse me?
Are you certifying the biochar for carbon credits?
I don't think we are already doing that, but we have a laboratory assessing the quality of the biochar because eventually it will have to be mixed with other fertilizers to be in the right quantity for the soil, but not certified yet.
Well, there's a lot of money right now for credits for biochar that can bring down your return on investment period significantly. So
Significantly, okay. I will write this point. And
if you're interested, let me know.
okay, yes, absolutely. I will be happy to share the card with you later.
You mentioned you chose the 3 most important value chains.
Yes.
What were the metrics to determine importance?
From what I understood from that phase, we evaluated the overall importance on the country in terms of economy. Yes.
And I guess what I'm always thinking in this workshop is the replication plan. How do you leave the country when the project ends? Have you already?
Yeah, a major part of the project will be towards the end when the demonstrator is installed, to have a close interaction with a local entity that will manage the plant. We'll need to leave the knowledge and the skills to run the plant and do the maintenance as said in other projects, so that they will be completely independent in the operation and life cycle overall of the technology.
I mean, I think I'll save my other questions, track you down later, but what is TIFIO's role? What is
Our role,
Yeah.
we are designing the thermal systems associated to the gasifier. So our role has nothing to do with the tower itself, but once the gas is used to generate electricity in a cogenerator, commonly, we are dealing with that heat. So finding the best technically and economical way to make use of that heat.
There was one work package about digitalization.
Digitalizations, exactly.
Can you say
Excellent.
what-
In at least 2 out of 3, not sure about the last one, demonstrators, we have online sensors, so smart meters. And from Italy or whatever other country of the project, we can monitor how the demonstrator is going without need to be physically there for the whole duration of the tests. And that can leave room for cooperation also in the future to make appropriate use of that data.
What was the criteria to choose the sites for the demos? Why the North and then why Morocco and then South Africa?
Well, surely this is a question more suitable for the coordinators, but they try to build the consortium so to have 3 different realities with a close access to one of the major agri-food industry on the market on the site. So, for example, Morocco is notably famous for the olive oil. So they wanted to target one of those industries. Yes?
I have a question about feedstock. So usually the issue when you want to install a gasifier in a retrofit project is to ensure a reliable, streamline, always the same amount of feedstock with the same input. So I would assume at least for the olive oil ones that it's another seasonal
Yes.
harvest. Do you ensure that the feedstock is always available, always work out the same, price things nobody including higher types of feedstock when the olive oil, I don't know, residue is not harvested?
Well, the major pro of this technology is that a reactor can be fed with different type of sources. So even when the original biomass waste is over because it was completely consumed, it can be replaced by other sources.
Yeah, but have you included this perspective?
It is in the life cycle assessment, yes. And yes, as you said, gasifier stability is one of the major issues, technically speaking. Exactly, absolutely true. In at least 2 of the demonstrators who are making sure that they produced some of the heat produced by the combustion of the gas is then used back to dry the waste, yes.
And talking investment-wise, who is paying for the big installation? Is it just gasifier and not that cheap yet? Like, who is covering the
Well, the European grant is good enough for now to pay for this.
future
Yes.
perspective? Like,
Yes.
how do we empower the local community at such project?
Investors' engagement will be a key aspect towards the end of the project. The partners involved in Work Package 8 are developing different business models, and there's a plan to get in contact with the local realities that can be interested to fund this. The important figure is that it can pay back itself, so it can pay off.
I have one last question for you, but also for all of the other speakers. I only heard one person mention a governmental body. What is the role, level of contribution, importance of all of the projects in terms of the local government?
Yeah, we're gonna have some time later for discussion. We're gonna be.
Oh, is it not that time yet?
I think this is that.
So we went.
Excellent. If you want to come over or stay there as you
Yeah.
prefer.
Yeah, and because it's better to talk maybe in the States. You can.
I'm not completely sure what would be the involvement of the regulators of the government when talking about this technology, but for sure we are dealing with the local DSO because it's just a demonstrator, but in the perspective of replicating this technology on a larger scale, we will need to be accepted by the DSO to send electricity on the local grid. It's actually one of the partners we are dealing with the South African demonstrator, and there's a close cooperation. The grid has to be renovated, but it can accept this technology connected to their grid.
You probably are dealing with the DSO also.
Yeah, in the case of the most urban one, yes. Also, the fact that the government knows that there's these grid problems and there's this economical impact of these grid problems. In the case of Kenya, this is easy to work with, but in the case of Sierra Leone, we try to work with the government to get this public area, to get these battery facilities, charging facilities, and it was complicated to say like an easy thing, but at the end of the day, the good thing is that all the business models that I presented are self-sustainable. So we, at the end, partner with private companies. In the case of Sierra Leone, for example, in that case, we tried to talk with the government. We couldn't, so we partner with gas stations. And in the case of Madagascar, since it's a super rural area, the government impact on that area is, for say that this is not existing. So we basically had to talk with the small villages. Are, as I said, super rural. So it's around 50 people per square meter, square kilometer. So yeah.
In the case of Sofia, I would say public bodies have been quite involved in a lot of the process work. So the partner we have in Cameroon is actually the Ministry of Public Health of Cameroon. So it's representatives of the ministry that were involved directly in the selection of the hospital site. And also in the Uganda site, for example, from the very beginning, the first thing that the University of Makerere, which is the partner, had to do was to start discussions with the Ministry of Health, with the Ministry of Environment, with the Ministry of Energy, to get them involved and interested in the project, to get their approval for having these installations in the hospitals, because a lot of the hospitals we work with are publicly owned. In the case of Malawi as well, in the end, the hospital site is not directly a publicly owned hospital, but there were, like a lot of, for example, ethics and so screenings that had to be done, or an environmental study that we're doing in Cameroon that is directly done together with the Ministry of Environment. So in the sense of, the Ministries of Health and Environment and Energy have been quite, in Burkina Faso, that I forget as well. So the partners there are directly the hospital and a large university research organization. That has, I would say that in the first year, the most part of the communication or of the networking, the decisions done have been with public bodies, because otherwise it would just not be possible to even have the demos, or also thinking ahead of what will happen post-project. If you don't have the acceptance of the ministry, this will not happen. So this was happily, they were very interested and very involved as well. So it's been good, but it's definitely something necessary.
I have a ton more questions.
I have kind of similarities related to what Sia asked. I don't know how did you manage to organize the governance with the counterparts in the countries. I mean, it's like they are like eligible countries and they participate as partner in the consortium. Is there like a partner within the consortium that is dealing with all this? So how the governance is set? Apart from governments, I guess that there are many other counterparts like NGOs, like you were mentioning, like technical companies for maintenance of equipment, like the communities themselves. So how this governance was set in the project to make it real? I don't know if you can have some idea on that.
Yeah. Well, you have to keep in mind we are working in the Africa-EU Green Deal agreement. So it's already foreseen that Europe and Africa are cooperating towards installing and supporting African countries, depending on the European goals.
So the specific call allowed for any African organization to be a full eligible partner. Not for any call, but for the specific Horizon 2020 that all the projects go from the same call. Then, so it's an innovation action, so NGOs, public organizations, universities are funded 100%, and companies, whether from Africa or Europe, no difference, they're funded 70%.
In any case, any low or middle income country is fully eligible for the whole European Union.
I think that's
And
It's in the list.
I have to say that in my case, we're working with companies that were already in the demo sites long ago. So they already have contacts with the DSO, for example, with in the case of my Kenya demo. So it was easier than we didn't have to start from scratch, you know?
Because I guess this is the challenge from here to really identify the spot, and even they are eligible, obviously it helps that they, there's money for them, but to have the right contacts and to know the right people
Exactly.
and to identify the place, I guess this is not straightforward.
No, it is not. For sure, you need companies that are on site, because it's not this, I would say, possible.
Yeah, in the case of the Reflect projects, the coordinators are the University of Jaén here in Spain, and they've been working on this technology for years and years now. And they, especially for this, exactly for this, they have built the contacts over the years. And so this call was the right occasion to make everything easier and cooperate under the umbrella of the European Union.
Great, thanks.
This time.
Is it? Yeah.
I want to ask more, but I'll respect people's coffee break.
well,
Yeah.
we can continue
Yeah,
the
we
coffee
continue
break.
in the coffee break. We can answer all the questions that we have.
And then thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.